To recognize the gentleman from Lincoln 80 for explanation of bill and a motion thereon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would ask that the clerk report House Committee Substitute 1.
Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to Senate Bill 107.
Gentleman from Lincoln.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Committee Substitute to Senate Bill 107 now only does a couple things in this bill. Originally, this bill included the dismantling of the Kentucky Department of Education Board and reassembling it. However, there are many of us in this body that believe that that should be done. However, we could not agree upon how it should be done. So we are going to come back and work on that through this interim and hopefully have something to present next year. But what this bill does now with the committee sub is that one of two things in this. Number one, it no longer allows for an ex officio member or other non-voting member to send proxy to the board meetings. It isn't necessary for them to send proxy, and it will cut down on confusion and outside interference into the board meetings. If the meeting is that important, those members can make the arrangements to be there in person. That's what is expected of them anyway. The second thing it does, for the appointment or reappointment of the commissioner of KDE, the commissioner will now be subject to Senate confirmation. It also clarifies that their term is 4 years, which is in accordance with their contract, unless removed by the Kentucky Board of Education. This also is in accordance to how they're doing it right now. The General Assembly is elected by the people of this state, and the Commissioner of Education affects our entire state with their decisions on education. So the people need to have a voice in that and be ensured that their values are being represented in that position. We believe in order to be transparent in that process, many of us feel that it's necessary to have the Commissioner confirm through the Senate upon their selection. So, Mr. Speaker, I would move adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Well before some comments were made in committee by the Commissioner. The Commissioner made a couple of comments that many of us found alarming. First, when asked about specific curriculum that was on KDE's website and certain curriculum being taught in schools, the Commissioner made the comment that none of this was political until we, as politicians, made it political. Second, when asked his thoughts on educators having to abide by certain guidelines to teach certain topics that they had a conscientious objection to, his comments were, if they don't want to abide by the policies, they should probably find another line of work. For some of us, after hearing these comments, this just reiterates the fact that this bill is needed. Because what the Commissioner is saying is it doesn't matter what your convictions are, it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, it doesn't matter about your First Amendment rights to religion if you work in the school system. You either accept the policy given to you by KDE or find another job. I will also say to the Commissioner that he must not have watched much news the past couple of years. Parents and teachers have been raising concerns about some of these things that they've been seeing in the policy KDE has developed. It was parents and teachers that voiced concern over materials available on KDE's website. It was parents and teachers who have said they need to have their voices heard when it comes to the curriculum and the materials their children are seeing. That's why more parents are showing up at local school boards to voice their opinions. That's why parents are contacting their local officials about this issue. And that's why our student numbers have declined in public schools over the past couple of years. Commissioner, parents and teachers have been raising this flag for the past 2 years. We're not the ones that's made this political. You are, by continuing to push this agenda to ignore the voices of those parents and educators. All the while, Kentucky's children have fallen further behind. And the governor has just sat back and allowed his commissioner to do as he pleased. Again, this just reiterates why the commissioner needs to be Senate confirmed. The commissioner's position affects our entire state. We've seen and heard that very clearly lately because we as legislators are elected by the people and they need to have that voice in this process. To paraphrase his comments one more time, if you don't like the policy, find another job. Well, Commissioner, the General Assembly has a little to say about the policy as well. And this week we're going to set policy that allows parents and teachers to have more voice in what's set for education. And it starts right here with this bill. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would move passage of Senate Bill 107 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1.